Now, year two has some pretty exciting things for Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. I mean, we have the official racing center, which is supposed to bring a playlist function, so finally PvP actually matters again in TDUSC and along with ranked as well. We obviously have next season coming detective missions, which are going to be more in depth than they were in the TD2 iteration. And how can we forget housing? Literally the updates we're all waiting for. And we've gotten some details on it already. It's going to be a lot more customizable compared to TD2. You're gonna have features of being able to see your friends on a driveway, etc, etc. But the real question is, what happens after? Because where can the TDU go after year two? I mean, again, this is speculation and this is obviously hoping that we have a year three confirmed at some point. But that being said, because obviously you're not going to hear if year three is confirmed on my channel, I'm not going to tell you guys that. But if and when it is publicly announced, we have to think to ourselves, what could be the future of TDUSC after housing? Because at that point, you basically have the TDU DNA down. However, there are still some other issues, as we know, such as the lack of cutscenes, how the dealerships are modeled, how some social spaces and some certain game mechanics are done. But the gist of the TDU DNA finally arrives with Season 8 Real Estate. And I promise I didn't mean to rhyme there, but it just ends up working anyhow. But this video is going to be an extension of what I mentioned in the other video of me talking about how I got 1,000 hours in TDUSC and what my thoughts are on the game so far. This is what I think is the biggest flaw in TDUSC after housing update drops. However, you can't actually work on this regardless, because I think to get the most out of this update, you probably need something like cross-region to help out and maybe even crossplay as well. So without further ado, let's talk about what I think is the biggest flaw. That's the clans in TDUSC. Now, to discuss clans in more detail and why I think this is a very big issue in the game, we're actually just out here by the Street HQ. And I'm going to talk to you guys about clans and how they work originally. And I'm actually not even in the right start location, so I'm going to reverse here a bit. And we'll head inside. Now, these things, when we first saw them, it was a pretty cool concept. It's where you could meet people, and I believe that these have a maximum player count of 16, as similarly to the casino and the Solar Hotel. I could be wrong, though. No, sorry, the casino's 32. So I don't think this is 32. But anyways, here you could talk to the street clan owner to get into the clan. There's no real story with her, which is another big issue. In fact, clans, and funnily enough, there is another player which, coming into the clan HQ, it kind of doesn't help out my case of this video. But my other point was, you don't really see players join in. There's no real interactivity. You don't see them dancing on the dance floor. And you just come here once to do your activities. Once you're done leveling up the clan, there's no reason for you to come back here except for if you want to buy some rims in the clan store, which I'll show you guys later. But of course, you can come in here, and if I ever wanted to talk to these people after,
Well, you did pretty well for a noob. Keep up your rhythm, and you'll go far.
thanks. There's nothing else that they offer. They're part of this story, but all they really are just NPCs to interact to do a race, and you don't hear from them or learn about the lore or anything else other than this, which kind of sucks. It lacks story, it lacks initiative, and that's where, compared to TDU2, you can definitely get the point of where TDU2 did it right and where TDC is doing it wrong. Well, what I mean by that is that you can remember all of the TDU2 characters quite well. I mean, Todd Bishop, you had Tess Wintory, you had the Wilder brothers, you have Stuart Wintory, you have Marco Luzzuini, who was the asphalt racer, Jude, I don't remember her name, but the off-road racing girl. You can remember all of them, even the individual challengers. I mean, you can remember Miami Harris as well with their ego. So there's all of these things in the storylines and the animations that were presented to us, which made the characters more memorable. Here, if you ask me to name people in this game, apart from DJ Remy, because he's also the DJ of the, what radio station is it? The hip hop one? I don't really know anything else. Now, you can come here back to buy rims, but really, the VIP room, there's no reason for you to enter there again, which is the whole point of what I'm talking about, because honestly, even the license plates I don't really come back here for, there's no real reason. There's even a car here which you can see, but again, no real reason. And the same issue is repeated in the Sharps HQ as well. Now the Sharps HQ is located on the other side of Hong Kong Island, as you guys can see here, based on the Westwood. Now if you enter here, honestly, I'm a bit in between which one looks better, which one doesn't, as obviously a street, so I'm going to pick the Streets clan. But anyways, same thing here. I think this guy's name is Hideo or something like that. Hideki. I was semi right. But this is what I mean. They're not really memorable.
Are you Miss Hughes' new recruit?
Yeah, I'm not joining the Sharps, bro.
Hughes travels fast here. You don't seem to recognize me, but no problem.
So he tells you who he is and whatever. I'm not gonna race him because, for starters, I'm not gonna join his clan.
You didn't connect with the streets in quite the way you wanted.
Not true,
You
bro.
always challenge me and try to join the Sharps.
Yeah, no. I'm not joining no Sharp clan. But anyways, there is some stuff you can't come outside here, which sucks. There's a car here similarly, and then there's also the VIP section that the Sharps have, which is basically you can go outside instead of us, and they have a pool which you can't enter. But there's an issue here that I have. But again, similarly, guys, there's no real character interaction. Of course, you progress and level up through the clans, but there's no story. You meet them once, you challenge them, and you don't have to talk to them again. There's no real vibe that you can actually get, which sucks. There's no even animation before and after. If you do a challenger race, you don't really get to like hear for them. And if you remember how challenger races worked in TDU2, you had the intro animation, you had the outro animation when they lost. It was all there, and it helped you remember and make the character memorable, whether you hated them or you loved them. So now the real question is, how can this be better? Because this is to be fair, a pretty major part in TDUSC's story. So how can it be done? And this is where, hear me out, we take another key out of TD2's book and slap it into TDUSC, but reimagine it a bit. In order to really explain that, let's open up TDU2 and you'll see exactly what I mean. Okay, so welcome to Test Drive Unlimited 2, guys, which here I'm going to talk to you about clubs. One of the best systems in TD2. In fact, I think it's probably one of the main end games that you could have had. It's something that I had when I was playing on PS3 days. But this is a club I created on TDU2. But what is a club? Because I know some of you guys might be new to TDU or just Test Drive in general, but this is essentially where you could create a club. You can have a upgradable clubhouse. Here you can invite players, you can create a club card, and you can also face off other clubs and fight for the top leaderboard. Now here's an example. I have to go through all of this in details so I catch you up to the top. For example, we have someone that joined. I'm going to increase the hierarchy so they can actually use some of the cars that are in the garage, which we'll get to in a second. So there we go. Made you a member, whoever that is. Here's me. You could see same thing. Upgrade the club is where you can upgrade your club. Now, when you first start off, you can have a maximum of 8 members in your club, and you can see the garage capacity is 0, so there's no garage. Then you have a devotee club, which you can add more members to your club now, and you have a garage capacity of 2. And then last but not least, and I'm going to move my head over to this side now, you can have the full experience, which is now a 32 maximum members, which funnily enough is the casino max player counts, and the garage capacity is set to 4. Now, the actual scenery, like the club itself, changes on each one as well. Not only the interior, but the exterior as well, which is pretty cool. Now, my club is already max level, and if I'm able to show you guys some screenshots of the other clubs, I'll put it up on the screen right now for you guys to see as I cycle through all of the many different clubs. But if not, you just heard me yapping for a couple more seconds for no reason. Anyways, here you can make a donation if you want to upgrade your club, because all of that costs money. So you'll be able to add money to your club to be able to do so. You have the identity card, which essentially is everything else. You can see I set the flag to Hong Kong, of course. You can see how much money you have, the verses, the language, the entry level, your favorite brand. You can also set the text. All of this is editable. This is a whole system inside the game. Then you had recruiting, which you can have open or closed depending on if you wanted to bring more members. And that's essentially the office. For no request, sure, I'll accept that. Now, apart from that, you had this, which is the billboard, which gives you the club's history. So if I wanted to check any stats, I don't think it's going to work. It may be a bit broken. You also had your club's ranking, which again, you could also check in your club stats, which you guys can see here. The club's vehicle list is here. You have to buy the vehicles after, by the way. So even after you unlocked the vehicle, in order to actually get it in your club, you have to donate money and buy it. The whole system was top fucking tier. Anyways, you can see your club's performance, the global ranking, etc., etc. Whoops, it's gonna kick us out from here. We got some server issues. Now, on top of that, you had this area on the left side, which is where you could actually do things. Now, they call it the bar, but you could create a game, and whether it was inner club challenge, which means you could face other club members in the choice of the multiplayer challenge, or you can do club versus club, which is team up with 2 to 4 other club members and face off another club. So it was obviously 4v4, similar to how this Streets in the Clan thing is right now. But points are earned in club versus club, which allow you to upgrade your club. Now, so yeah, in order to upgrade your club, that's what you had to do in a challenge as well. And another thing that I actually forgot to mention, in these races, there were co-op races in TDU2, such as Follow the Leader, where each checkpoint switched between a different player, and that player would have to go to the next checkpoint, and you didn't have access to which way to go. And there was another co-op one, which was Keep Your Distance, where you have to keep a certain amount of distance between all of the players, and depending on that, you got a certain amount of points collectively. And these co-op race modes, I'm not saying KT has to carbon copy for TDUSC, but co-op races and co-op events to help also level up your club in the whole grand scheme of things, I think is a pretty damn good idea. And hopefully this is something that we can see in the future when such a club integration is possible. Because one thing that is definitely missing TDUSC, which I've mentioned before, is co-op and the sense of being able to do co-op stuff. And I also mentioned a little bit later in the video the ability to have championships. It would be pretty cool if we could have co-op championships as well. But let me continue the video now. So another thing you had was joining a game. So you could also join a club, but there's no matches, so nothing to do. Then you had the garage. Now, because this club is already maxed out, you guys are going to see I already have all the vehicles here. But as I said, in order to upgrade your club, you have to have a certain amount of points and a certain amount of money. And here, you are now able to use these cars, drive them. In fact, anyone in your club, well, once you create a member for them, you could go ahead here and use the vehicle itself. Same thing for this car. Same thing for this car, which you guys already know. I hope one day we can get this in TDUSC, but this car, the sound, the looks, the aggressiveness, oh man, I love this car in TDU2. You also had this car, which no one really cared about. It was pretty good though, don't get me wrong, it was pretty damn good. But yeah, this car though, this car was something else. So you had this ability to drive this car wherever you wanted, you could use in races as such, and this is why it was the best thing, because you had a goal to work towards with your other members. Cough, cough, co-op, which co-op is a big thing in Test Drive. It's the whole social mechanic. It's why people love Test Drive, not just the casino for co-op and meeting players and socializing, but to be able to race with your friends to earn rewards. You also had a pool here, which again, all this was upgradable, so each time you upgraded your club, it improved. Now, there's no sitting down feature like in TDUSC. There's no ability to swim, which I hope would be pretty cool in TDUSC, even if it's just a small mechanic, bro, just for the role-playing nonsense. But that's clubs in TDU2. Now, you can see where I'm probably going with this and where I think that we can improve. I don't think we should remove streets and sharps, because that whole concept, I think, is really good. It just needs to be enhanced to allow players to actually connect to the game more, which, let's go back to TDUSC and let me tell you how these two can live in parallel. Which actually, before I even do that, I need to talk to you about different club locations, because this is also pretty important in my discussion. And again, don't worry if the map freezes on TDU2 and you don't have the RTX fix, zoom out. I swear to you, it works. Bam. Anyways, so you can see here, there's multiple places you can own a club in the map. Here, for example, next one on the racetrack, you could own a club. I'll zoom out again. Same thing here, if you want a club on the southern side, same thing there. And you could literally fly all the way to Ibiza and you'll get the exact same thing. Indeed. If I go here, which I cannot wait. If we ever expand Ibiza, we have the proper airport animation like that. We're missing it. But same thing on Ibiza. You want a club here in San Antonio? Yes, you can. I think there's other clubhouses, but I need to explore the world more to find them. But funny enough, I'm very certain this club in this location is actually one of the clubs you get and the well, not what you get, but you visit for a cutscene in the beginning of Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. But now that I caught you up with all this, let's now hop into TDUSC and I'll explain to you my whole idea. I can't wait for the day I open up TDUSC and instead of being in the Solar Hotel, I'm in a beautiful house which I can customize and go to my garage. One day, bro. One day. Anyways, what I'm talking about for TDUSC is implementing that feature but into TDUSC but combining the streets and the sharps. Now, essentially, how the streets and sharps work right now is you get to level 12 in the game, and then you can go here to your club of your choice, whether it's the streets or the sharps, and then you can join, and after that, you can now race in these clan races. Now, clan races can be found all over the map, such as this one right here, and to help explain it better, I'm actually going to go to this race. I'll fast travel here, and I'll explain to you how we can combine the whole race system. Now, right now, if I wanted to be with someone, for example, if I invited my friend, I could go ahead and do this race as I choose to. Now, of course, there's no real multiplayer right now, so I can't really do that. So we'll go to solo mode, and now I will change my car because I have to. And you know, I'll just use this car, why not? And I have an issue with these races currently, and it's because you have no idea who is going to win the race until the race finishes. What I mean by that is, apart from the standings, because as I understand, even if you don't finish first, like your clan, you can still win. There's no point system that tallies it up during the race, which is exactly what we need, because right now, bro, it's impossible for me to know what... God damn, you guys. It's impossible for anyone to know how the race is going to finish and what place I need to be in. What we need to have is like a point system, which honestly, how Forza Horizon does it in their like group races is exactly how we should have it in this game. It's like a live updated point system, which depending on your place, it will tell you whether your team is in like first or whether your team's in second. Although I should probably say last and not second, because you know, here we like to punish those. We don't like to lay it off easy. Second place sounds really good, but in reality you're last. So, but anyways, that improvement I think is very well needed for this whole race system to be a lot more understanding. Because apart from that, there's no real example of what first or second place means. Which, by the way, if you ever want a daily driver car, the Mini Cooper GP is a really good vehicle to get. In fact, sometimes it might actually be better than the, well, like so, might be better than the Audi TT-RS. But another cool thing about these clan races is that they're supposed to be unofficial. Here's why you'll see traffic in these races, but you won't see traffic in the time trials. I think maybe you do in time trials, but you won't see it in the actual official races in the game, such as the domination or the sprint races, which is a really cool lore thing, but again, there has to be more to explain that. So now the question is, what can TDUSC do to actually improve this dynamic of clubs in the game? And I'm glad you asked. Let's head back to the street clan so I can explain this in much better detail. I mean, I have to finish this race first because it's free XP and I'm not even max level yet. So we'll do that first. Of course, don't take any of this as official confirmation, guys, because this is just my idea and I'm not a developer at the end of the day. So how this works is essentially you come here, whether it's the streets or the sharp crew, and you talk to the advisor and they actually invite you into the club, whether you win the race or not. And then, okay, you're now a streets, but there's one thing you have to do. First off, I think that we need a garage here, because when houses come, I really hope we have limited garage space. And another way to increase your garage space, if we do bring that, is just once you have a clan, you get a free garage, which you can get access to here, whether you're in the sharp clan or the street clan. I think that's a pretty cool idea to have. And plus it gives people a reason to come back here more and more often. But there's another thing. I think this can be the actual proper HQ to create your inner club. This makes sense. Imagine TD2 clubs, but now you can have a club within the clan. And you can invite people to that, which means you can now have inner club battles in the streets and inner club battles in the sharps, and now proper club battles between streets and the sharps with your actual club that you created. In fact, it could be a whole massive thing in the future where large amount of clubs on the streets and a large amount of the sharps go together and battle it out in co-op races, which you guys know the TD2 races for the clubs was pretty damn good. But essentially what I would expect is that you have two choices here. You can either have your clan HQ inside of here, which you go up to the VIP area, and then maybe there's like another room you can now have access to and upgrade as you upgrade your clan, or you can actually expand it to another area. For example, if you're a sharp, you have the possibility of buying a HQ somewhere here. I think it is. Hold on. I will find it on the map and we'll drive there really quick. The location I'm talking about is just here, and it's obviously not daytime, of course. What perfect timing, but it's the golf course, because if you're a sharp, I feel like golfing is what you're going to do. But there's a whole golf course here, and I can imagine that this could be a clubhouse where you can now, we don't have the same map as TDU2, so I can't even do that. But basically, once your club is at a certain level, you have the ability to purchase this lot, which is then upgradable, and you can now get cars, exclusive cars to your actual club itself. It gives a reason for players to continue to go back to the clan of their choice and work hard in the co-op races to then get access to purchase new land and then upgrade land on that spot as well. And for the streets, well, for the streets, I don't really know where else that they could possibly go on this map that would make sense. Maybe it could be like one of those beach areas, which you could have like a cool beach access. I don't know, guys. This is just brainstorming. I'm making this up on the fly. And also, it would make sense if we had a similar thing going on in Ibiza, because as you recall, Ibiza, the whole point of it was to combine and enhance the streets and the sharps thing with Tess Wintry, which also isn't a character that has been used much. But I think that this can be part of a bigger story. Here we are on Ibiza, and there's actual streets and shops clothing stores, and then you have this lean HQ, which I have to travel inside because I do love the design of this. The design isn't like super futuristic, it screams like resort style, the music matches. I think this proves that KT know what to do. They know how to create a proper test drive. Even if you go over to the dealership, for example, and I know I'm losing a tangent right now, but I have to say it, this is exactly what players want to see. So without a doubt, I'm not even worried if test drive can actually create something cool here from KT Racing, which, by the way, one day I really do hope that we can fix to be the actual roadster. But yeah, anyways, it would be cool that even after you buy those lands on Hong Kong Island, you then have the ability to buy another one on Ibiza. And why would that be possible? Well, it gives a reason for players to have a one on Hong Kong Island. In TDU2, you either had one or the other. You couldn't have both. I think that should change, and now we have the ability to have on both islands, because if I want to be able to go on Ibiza and have a place to stay on Ibiza with my club, it makes sense, you know what I'm saying? But Ibiza isn't really that big at the moment to be able to say, okay, you know, we can put something here or here. But for sure, hopefully by this point, when this is all implemented, Ibiza would have been expanded by then. So there's a lot more area to add to the game. But there should be a way to connect this, because right now, all we have is Tess Wintry, who gives you the introduction and doesn't say anything after. It's literally just this like cutscene you guys see here. Which, to be honest, they did pretty good here. This is how you started off. They're doing better here. This is where I can see that they know how to do a test drive. So they're getting better. But anyways, once you skip, I'm going to skip it anyway. Sorry, Tess. Nah, she looking tan, boy. Anyways, once you skip this, there's nothing else to do. Now, Tess, she's supposed to be the whole organizer of what's happening on Ibiza and the streets and the sharps thing. So she could probably lead a story between the streets and the sharps to expand that. Then with the characters you have in the HQs of the current sharp and street HQ, you could probably have something more in depth of them. And championships is another thing that's missing. It would be crazy if we could involve them, the streets and the clans, into championships with a proper story so the characters are memorable and now you have, I like where this is going. I kind of do. But I'll leave this up to you guys. What are your thoughts? And I think a lot of people can agree with me. The whole streets and sharps thing needs to be improved, because right now it's unmemorable. It doesn't fit test drive, not because it's not a test drive thing. I think the sharps and the streets can live in a test drive unlimited universe, but there has to be more done to them in order to have that fluidity throughout the entire game. So that's my thoughts on what is essentially the biggest flaw in TDUSC after year 2. Of course, there are other things, guys. I'm not saying that, you know, the game is literally perfect once season 8 hits, but what I'm saying is that there's another thing that we have to work on, and this is why I say cross-region and cross-play are very important with this, because we have to have a lot more of the player base into the game. You know, even if the game does have small player numbers now, it's even shortened further because of these cross-region and cross-play things. So it would mean a lot if we had the ability to have those 2 items in time for something like this, just so that you can make this update feel crazy when it actually arrives. But let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below, guys. But I think the concept of it is pretty good, and it ticks off all the boxes and what's also missing. And plus, there's no real co-opness in Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown at the moment. However, in TD2 there was a lot of co-op races you could do as such. So having the ability to get players to socialize and work together to also like progress through the game, I think it's a really big thing. But anyways, other than that, guys, I'm Alex7, and I'll see you guys in another video. I'm going to continue to cruising around Ibiza as I enjoy Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown. It's a great game in my opinion. Does have its issues, not saying it's great without any issues whatsoever, but I'm enjoying it, and I really think that the future has potential. I'll see you guys later. Peace.